Please stand by. We're having some technical difficulties. We're just making sure that the Zoom link works so everybody can log in. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. It is 4:06 p.m. on May 7th, 2025. I apologize for the delay. We had a slight problem with our Zoom link, but it seems to be corrected now as we can now see that there are people online. We currently have 4 people online, and we have 1 person in attendance at the schoolhouse. Um, Welcome to everyone to the second budget study session for the fiscal year 2025-26 budget. The topic of this town hall is the expense side of things on our budget. As we recall, the first budget study session was related to revenues. So I will give a brief presentation on our expenses that are being incorporated into the budget. And then after I'm done with the presentation, then open the floor up to questions and comments. Would like to ask that you please limit your questions and comments to the topic of discussion, which is budget expenses. In our revenue session, we kind of ran off topic on a couple questions. So if we could please limit our questions to the budget expenses, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. So on April 30th, I gave this presentation to the council in a budget study session. So now we're presenting it for the town hall to the residents of the town. Overview of this presentation, we'll review the town organization, looking at the town departments and funds, and then reviewing the expense categories that are in our budget. We currently have 22 total functions separated into about 13, well, separate functions in the budget. categorized in administration. There are 6 functions in administration related to town council, town committees, town manager, the town attorney, which is a new category or a new function for this year. We've removed that function from our non-departmental section, which is 610. And there's the town clerk and finance. Public safety includes police services, fire services, and dispatch services. Planning and building, the planning division, the building division, code compliance, and then our customer deposits. And then recreation, it's community hall and parks and field maintenance, and public works is roads, facilities, and development services. Non-departmental, these are mostly our unallocated expenses related to overhead, or there's just not a specific department function related to this expense. Then we have the road maintenance districts. The road maintenance districts, the town acts as the fiduciary for 5 road maintenance districts within the town. And then for capital projects, we have roads and right-of-way improvements, parks and fields improvements, open space improvements, and facilities and buildings improvements. And these are how the expenses are categorized in our chart of accounts and how we build the budget. There are currently 20 active funds that are broken down into 5 categories. Our main operating fund is the general fund. Then there are special revenue funds, and these are special revenue funds because the source of the revenue is for a specific purpose. So these funds are separated from what would normally go into the general fund, and the special revenue funds are grants, public safety sales tax, public safety cops grant, our open space fund, our library fund, gas tax, the Frog Pond open space remnant, Measure A, Measure M, and Measure W. Those are sales tax measures approved by the voters. Park and lieu is a developer fee, and those funds can be used for any type of park maintenance or park improvement project. Then we have inclusion in lieu, which is our affordable housing. And again, that's established through a developer fee. Capital projects, we have one capital project that houses the 4 projects I showed, or the 4 departments I showed you in the previous slide. The special districts, we have the Crescent Road Maintenance District, the Portola Valley Ranch Road Maintenance District, Wayside Road Maintenance District, Side Highlands Road Maintenance District. And then we have our agency funds, which are our customer deposits. Those are the deposits we receive for project applications in regard to development. And looking at the sources and uses of our town funds, the general fund is basically all of our revenue, taxes and fees, and any other miscellaneous items, and those are used for general operations. Our grants fund, the source is obviously grants, and we have grants for operations, and we also have grants for capital projects. Our public safety sales tax, that's a sales tax we receive. It's a portion from the state sales tax rate. And the use of those funds is restricted to public safety. Same with the public safety cops grant. This is also a portion of the California state sales tax that we receive a portion of. And again, those funds are restricted for the use of public safety. The open space fund, the source of the revenue for those funds is the 2% UUT, and then any contributions or donations received. And again, the use of these funds is restricted to open space acquisition and preservation. The library fund, we receive funding from the county. And again, those funds are restricted for library use, and it's usually maintenance and upkeep of the building. Gas tax, we receive revenue from the highway users tax and the road maintenance and rehabilitation account, which was established by SB1 in 2017. The funds of the use of these funds is restricted to transportation projects. The next fund is the Frog Pond Open Space Remnant, and this fund is The source of these funds is strictly from contributions, and the use of these funds is restricted to the Frog Pond Remnant Preservation. The next three funds, Measure A, Measure M, and Measure W, are sales tax measures, and those funds are restricted to the use of transportation. As I stated earlier, park in lieu and inclusion in lieu are established through developer fees. Park in lieu funds are restricted for parks and fields, and inclusion in lieu is restricted to affordable housing. Our capital projects fund is primarily funded through transfers from the general fund, and the use of these funds is restricted to capital projects. The road maintenance district funds are the source of those funds are annual assessments, and the use of these funds is restricted to private road maintenance within those districts. And then the last fund is customer deposits. The revenue source is the applicant, and the use of these funds is restricted to the applicant projects. And looking at our expenses, they're categorized as follows. We have salaries, benefits, supplies and services, maintenance, capital improvements, and transfers. And starting with salaries, we start with our salary schedule, which is adopted annually by council. And this salary schedule is used to develop the budget workforce plan. On the slide on the screen, this is the 24-25 salary schedule. And it shows each position that's authorized and then the salary range, and whether it's a salaried position or if it's an hourly position. And they're classified administration, finance, planning and building, public works, facilities maintenance, and then if we have any part-time help. And looking at salaries, we're looking to fill the 25-26 with 18 full-time equivalents, but that number could reduce depending on how the numbers fall. We are currently recruiting for the town manager and town clerk, and hopefully recruiting for an engineer technician shortly. So if you look at the authorized positions, recruiting again, town manager and town clerk, and possibly recruiting for an engineer technician 1, and the other positions are filled. Looking at benefits, benefits include retirement, medical, dental, and vision. For this presentation, we're going to be focusing on retirement and medical, as those are the two largest expenses and benefits. Dental and vision is very inexpensive, and the rates rarely change from year to year. So retirement is managed by the CalPERS, or the Public Employees Retirement System. Our employees are classified in 2 tiers. We have classic employees, and those are employees who were hired within the system prior to January 2013. And then we have the PEPRA tier, and those for any employees hired after January 1st, 2013, or who have left a local agency and returned after a period of time. They're now reclassified as PEPRA employees. Case in point, myself. The employee contribution rate, these are what the employees are required to contribute with each pay period. For classic employees, it's 7%, and for PEPRA employees, it's 7.75%. I've also included the total contributions, which is employer and employee contributions from fiscal year 21-22 through 24-25, through the last month of 24-25, excuse me. So as you can see, from 21-22, it was almost 176,000, and the number has declined from 23-24. It's went down to 173, and the number should significantly decrease in 24-25 based on the vacancies that we've had over the prior year. And then looking at the contribution rates from year to year, as you can see, there's a slight increase from 21-22 is 10.34%, And for 25-26, the number is going to be 11.94%. So that's an increase of 1.6% over 5 fiscal years. And then looking at the PEPRA rates, they've increased from 7.59 to 7.96%, which is a 0.37% increase over the 5 fiscal years. The purpose of the PEPRA plan was to contain the costs for retirement. The employees are in longer retirement tiers, which reduces the overall cost from year to year. And as we transition our employees, we currently have 3 employees in the classic system or the classic tier, and where the remaining 8 or 9 are in the PEPRA plan. And as we transition more and more, or we hire newer employees, they are going into the PEPRA plan. So our contributions in our classic plan, which is the higher cost, is actually reducing from year to year. Now, the unfunded accrued liability is the difference between what our pension liability is and the market value of assets that are held at CalPERS that are amortized on an annual basis for 20 years. So looking at the last 5 fiscal years, the unfunded accrued liability has increased from 92,000 to 168,000. And those numbers are, we pay these numbers on top of what we contribute annually to PERS. So these numbers are actually in the budget. The 168,000 is in the budget for 25-26. And looking at medical, there are 2 major plans that our employees are in. One is there's an Anthem plan, and then there's also a Kaiser plan. The rates for the Anthem plan has increased 12% on average since 21-22, and the Kaiser rates have increased 9% on average since fiscal year 21-22. Since these premium increases go into effect mid-year, the budget assumes a 5% increase in medical premiums per year. And the rates displayed are for employee-only plans. And as you can see, the Anthem plan has increased almost $650 per month since 21-22. And the Kaiser plan has increased about $360 per month since 21-22. And these are costs we really don't have control over. These are negotiated between the insurance companies and CalPERS. But since we have a large pool of employees in CalPERS, it's that large balance of employees is kind of helps what keeps the healthcare costs in check, because CalPERS is one of the largest employee plans in the nation. Moving on to services, town services are supported through contract providers and consultants, as well as town employees. For town administration, we have a contract provider with town attorney. Public safety, we have a contract with the San Mateo County Sheriff. And then we also have contracts with Woodside Fire Protection District for vegetation management and for fire mitigation. And for planning and building, we have several consultants, but the one we use the most is Good City. And we'll be using these vendors as an example in this presentation. Looking at the San Mateo County Sheriff contract, I've shown the sheriff contract from 2018-19 through 26-27. 26-27 is a projection, and it's based on a 5 to 6% or 6% increase from 25-26. As you can see, in 2018-19, it was a little bit over $1 million for the sheriff's contract. And in 22 or 23-24, there was a significant increase of almost 57%. The contract was renegotiated. The sheriff then built in more costs, unallocated costs, overhead that was negotiated with council. And so that was a $850,000 increase from one year. However, from 23-24 through 25-26, we were able to receive over $1 million in credit towards the contract cost in the following years. In 23-24, it was a little bit over 426,000. That was directly from the sheriff's department. They elected to defer the first 6 months of billing at the new rate. That generated $426,000 in savings there. And then 24-25 and 25-26, we were able to receive about $634,000 in credits from the county administrator's office. So the 24-25 budget included a $423,000 credit, which reduced the 2.34 million contract cost to 1.92. And then for 25-26, the 2.5 is actually going to 2.3 million. But 25-26 is the last year of the credits. So in 26-27, the net increase for 25-26 is 334,000, but we're projecting an additional 363,000 for 26-27. So that's going to be about a $700,000 increase in the sheriff's contract over the next 2 fiscal years. We are currently starting to have conversations with the sheriff's department in relation to these contracts, and hopefully we can come to an agreement, because 700,000 is a little bit steep, and it's going to be put a significant strain on our budget moving forward. Woodside Fire Protection District, as I stated earlier, we have a crew that does vegetation management. There's the chipper program, and then we have a fuel mitigation engineer. We share the cost with the town of Woodside. Actually, all the costs are, with the exception of the vegetation management crew, are shared with the town of Woodside. And as you can see, from 2021 to 24-25, fuel mitigation engineer costs have gone up about 25,000 or 20,000, excuse me. The chipper program fluctuates from year to year, but last year was almost 69,000, or excuse me, for this year it was almost 69,000, and the crew is currently at 121,000. I have received some estimates, but I received them this morning, so didn't have a chance to update this slide for today's presentation. But this is just an example of our costs associated with the Woodside Fire Protection District. And the vegetation management program significantly increased after 21-22, and this was in light of the CZU complex fire. So there's been a heightened awareness on the vegetation management throughout the town. And this is Woodside Fire Protection is providing this service on behalf of the town. This is something the town, if we had sufficient resources in regards to crew, and public works, so this would be something that the town would be doing by itself. But we contract with Woodside Fire Protection District to manage this program for us. Looking at consultants, Good City. Good City provides support for town planning staff and direct service for applicant projects. Town costs are paid out of the general fund. Applicant costs are paid out of customer deposits. As you can see, from 2021 to 24-25, costs have significantly increased. 21-22, 22-23, 23-24, some of those costs related to the housing element, but also with 23-24 and 24-25, that's also related to the vacancies we've had in the planning department and Good City having to fill in to provide those services for the town. But they've also provided service to our applicants as well, and those numbers have increased as well. Again, we're currently having conversations with Good City in regards to next year's services, looking to cap services for the town and also for applicants, because the applicant deposit is not only to cover their costs, but it's also to cover the town costs as well. And the applicant's deposits are going more towards the consultants. That leaves less revenue for the town to collect, and then would require an additional deposit from the applicant. As I stated, we're having those conversations with Good City as we speak. Other consultants used, for finance, we have HDL, which does analysis of our sales tax revenue. Corn and Cone does analysis of our property tax revenue. Christian Company is providing backup professional service for the finance department. Planning and Building has several other consultants that were not listed or were not given examples of, with CSG Consultants, which does planning and code enforcement. They also do building inspections. Urban Planners has also been used with the housing and safety element. Cotton Shires provides geology services. Nolte Associates Engineering. Lanphier Gregory also applies additional planning services. And Krupka Consulting provides engineering services for public works projects. Maintenance, included in our services is maintenance, and maintenance is overseen by town staff, mostly Justin and Scott. In recreation, it's community hall and parks and fields. And in public works, it's our vehicle maintenance and our building and facilities maintenance. Just a note about vehicle maintenance, we do have an aging fleet. I think the youngest vehicle is from 2014. We still have vehicles in service since the year 2000, and the maintenance costs for those vehicles are increasing year by year as these vehicles get older. They've gone well beyond their useful life. Capital improvements. If you may recall, last year we deferred capital improvements from the 24-25 budget to balance the 24-25 budget. But what I'm showing here is a breakdown of the capital improvement budgets for each segment. So for roads and right-of-way capital improvements, we had about 1.27 million budgeted for capital improvements related to roads, mostly with our resurfacing program, which was deferred. But as you can see, not only are the capital projects fund, which is funded through the general fund, you can also see the grants fund, gas tax, Measure A, Measure M, Measure W, those funds were also used to fund capital project programs related to our roads and right-of-way improvement. In parks and field maintenance, we did not have any capital projects proposed for 24-25. I believe for 25-26, we were looking at developing a plan to resurface the courts, the pickleball and tennis courts. Open space capital improvements, we had no plans submitted or projects submitted for 24-25. And I don't believe there will be any for 25-26. And then for facilities, we had about 5 projects. These were all funded through the general fund, capital project fund. Town hall boiler replacements, the sheriff's substation, IT upgrades, infrastructure improvements, and vehicle replacement. Some of these projects will be coming back for 25-26, but we'll be redefining some scope, and some of the dollar amounts will be changing. We had about $785,000 budgeted for 24-25, which was deferred. So that concludes my report on, or my presentation on expenses. And we're now going to open it up for questions. Again, please limit the questions to expenses and yield the floor. I am not seeing any questions. Any questions in the schoolhouse? Okay. Yeah, just right there. Just state your name and ask away.
Hi, I'm Valerie Halperin, And I have a question regarding the source of funding, which you indicated was an annual assessment. And that is for the road management districts.
The road maintenance district, yes,
Yeah, road maintenance districts.
yes.
So when you describe it as annual assessment, could you be more specific about the assessments, what the source of the assessment per se
It's
is?
property tax.
Property tax.
Yes, so when you get a resident in those road maintenance districts will receive their property tax bill, and then they will see a separate charge for the road maintenance district.
Okay. Thank you. And if those dollars are unspent, then do they roll over to the following fiscal year?
Yes,
Thank
yeah,
you very
we, as the town is just the fiduciary, we hold on to the funds. It's up to the maintenance districts to spend those funds, but they need to let us know if they're spending the money so that we can pay whoever they've had provide the service for them.
And you said that the individual district manages the spending of the fund?
Yes,
Okay. And is there a designated individual that is charged with managing that expenditure?
I believe there is, but that's within each maintenance district.
Thank you very much.
Next up is Rita Gomez. Whitney?
Hi there. Thank you for taking my comment. Do we have anything in the Good City contracts or any of the other contractor contracts so that we can convert them into full-time? We're losing so much brain trust and spending so much extra money that if there are some contractors that we've had for a while, we could probably go back and negotiate to try and turn those people into full-time employees rather than starting from scratch, because they do hold some of our brain trust that's leaking out of the doors every day with the checks. Thank you.
Well, to answer your question, they're called no poaching clauses. It's usually the other way around. It's usually the consultants that are recruiting our talent away. But there are no poaching clauses in the contract, so we really can't offer a job to consultants while they're still under contract with us.
Well, no, but to have that built into the contract itself, conversion clauses, we could do something like that. That's a possibility for the next round of contracts.
Right, but also the consultant would have to agree to that too.
The company would have to agree with that. But
Right.
that's something that we should have standards since we're having such a hard time. Thank you.
Not seeing any other hands raised in the schoolhouse or on Zoom. Then I guess we're adjourned. Do you have any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for your attendance, and we'll post this on the website.